Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Business First Creatives podcast. I literally don't think I've ever been this excited for an episode. Today, I have Liz Wilcox herself, the fresh princess of email, and that does actually mean something. She's going to tell you all about it. But Liz, welcome to my podcast. How are you today?
I'm so good and I'm so stoked. I feel like I was getting like extra jazzed. I was thinking like today is just kind of a rainbow kind of day. I get to meet with you, get on the podcast. I was so excited. I was even like picking out an outfit. I was like, what can I wear
Well, I
that's like
approve of
cool
Simpson.
and
Yes,
fun?
I approve of Lisa Simpson 100%.
Awesome. I'm stoked.
So the funny thing about this podcast is while I do have lots of just entrepreneurs, I also have a pretty big audience of just photographers. And I feel like photographers may not know who you are and how awesome you are. So why don't you tell the listening audience where you're located and basically what you do for a living? Because I'm going to be quiet. I'm going to try to let you
Okay.
talk because I think
I've
everything is
got a
awesome.
spiel. I've got a spiel. And I
Okay.
actually love helping photographers and other service providers because I feel like you have the biggest opportunity to, leverage email marketing, but also it's the simplest thing for photographers. Like you
It
can
is.
just show off your pictures, share a couple words. Anyway, what's up? I'm Liz Wilcox. And you know that feeling you get when you listen to an amazing podcast episode like this, and there's some crazy lady screaming about email marketing and telling you, oh my gosh, for every dollar you spend, you can get $40 in return. And you get really hyped up and you go home and you open up your computer and you get on your ConvertKit, ActiveCampaign, MailChimp, whatever you use, and you say, oh, today's the day I'm going to send a newsletter. And then you probably feel kind of dumb because you have no idea what to write. Well, I help you eliminate that problem. I make email marketing super simple, email writing super simple. I currently live in Orlando. So if you ever come to visit Mickey, hit me up. And I cannot wait to share really just the simple tweaks that you can make in all of your emails, any kind of email campaign to show off you to see the results that you need to be seeing.
And guys, Liz is obsessed with rainbows just like me. I feel the need to say that because if you guys are not watching this, she has the most awesome like thing on top of her screen. She's going to have to tell me how to do it after. So I'm going to have one of my very own. But I don't know how I first came across Liz, but I will say I am in her email marketing membership, which is literally the cheapest thing that you can spend towards your business. And you get such a big return. Guys, I'm talking $9 a month. It's the most ridiculous thing that you could possibly spend money on for the return that you get. I mean, I will just say, like, sometimes I sit down and I'm like, I really need to write an email, but I don't know what the fuck to say. I just go into Liz's membership. I find an email that makes me laugh. I customize it and then I send it out. So if you guys have ever gotten one of my emails and you're like, that was a really good email, I got to tell you, it was probably because of Liz.
I love that so much. And I love that you called it cheap because honestly, especially in Colie and I's world, a lot of people will say, oh, high ticket, high ticket. And there's nothing wrong with that. But for me, it just wasn't for me. So I was like, I think I'm going to do more like Netflix style. And I'm just going to create something where, just like Netflix, you go in, you pick a movie. It's just like she said, you go in, you pick a template, $9 a month. It's kind of a no brainer. And it just brings me so much joy to serve people. And now at the time of this recording, we've got something like 2,700 members,
My
and
God.
it's so fun. And yeah, and I really mean it when I say like I just want to make this simple for people. I really want to eliminate that. Like she said, like, what the fuck do I write? I really want to eliminate that for you. So I tend to just write things for you.
And I mean, I will say, so I wasn't planning on starting with this list, but I do want to talk about templates because I feel like
Sure.
templates get a really bad name, whether it is a template for an email or a template for a proposal or a template. People are always like, yeah, but if I use a template, it doesn't sound like me. So how is it that you help people use the templates inside of your membership so that they are excited about sending the emails, but so it still feels very on brand for them, even though you're providing them with the template to get started.
Yeah. And, of course, like this isn't meant to be a pitch or anything, guys,
It
but,
isn't a pitch, but I don't
take
care.
it. Yeah.
Listen, when I
Take
love
it.
something, I talk about it all the time, Liz. So don't feel
Awesome.
bad. I
Awesome.
will sing your praises. Okay.
Yeah, and
No problem.
another thing is like it's guilt free when it's $9, right?
It is.
So, so I thought about that in creating, and maybe as you listen, you think of how to overcome those objections that are likely to come up for whatever it is you're selling, right? And one of mine, like Colie just said, is yeah, I use templates, and it sounds like Liz Wilcox. And if you're not seeing me on the screen right now, even just from what I've talked about in the last 5 minutes, you can probably tell like nobody does Liz Wilcox the way Liz Wilcox does, right?
Yes.
So inside the membership, I actually have like an explanation of the video of why you would send this sort of template. So whether it's email, social media, whatever kind of templates you're creating, like when you can tell people why, they can already start to get a better feel, a firmer grip on what they're sending out rather than just copy and pasting. I also give a skeleton outline. So it's like literally bare bones showing you what's inside the email. It's kind of like when you go on Instagram and there's that IG guy that's telling you this is the trending audio, right? It's very easy on social media to kind of see patterns. It's hard with email because you can't subscribe to 1,000 people's emails, right? That would be obnoxious. And so the skeleton outline just shows you kind of like the bare bones. And then I give you the actual detailed template, which is exactly like Mad Libs, right? It shows you, like insert adjective here or whatever. And then on top of that, because like she just said, copy and pasting a template can feel very, this isn't me. I'll use it because it's there, but it doesn't sound like me. I actually give you 2 swipes, and swipes are, let's say, A+ examples of something that's already written. So actually, before this call, I was writing the templates for next week's content, and I actually wrote the first one was written from the perspective of someone who owns a bar, so a local based business. Yeah, super fun. And then the second one is just from a service provider. And now that we're here, I didn't finish writing it. Maybe I'll write it from a photographer's perspective because we were
Ah,
talking about photographers, right?
I would
And
appreciate that.
okay, awesome. So really, if you create your own templates or if you go into my membership and check it out, really having those examples, I think allows your customer to see themselves in it. Even with the swipes, I'll often say, oh, this is written from the perspective of someone who is really uncomfortable writing emails. And this is written from the perspective of someone who's been emailing their list every week for a year. So you can even see different styles. Of course, sometimes I have like grief coaches, so I'll write it in a more like serious, loving tone. And then the second example will be, maybe someone like Colie or myself who's like, hey, I am who I am, screw off. And those are 2 different emails, but it's coming from the same template. So given all those, 4 or 5 things I just listed, people can get a really holistic viewing of what the template is, what it will do for your business, and how you can use it for yourself.
That was amazing. I'm going to come back and I'm going to ask you follow-up questions. So number 1,
Okay.
you mentioned whether or not you are trying to write your list for the first time or if you are someone who actually writes your list like often. So let's talk about, the elephant in the room. How often should people be emailing their list?
So it depends. That's everybody's favorite
I
answer,
know.
right?
I knew you were going to say
Now,
that.
in general, the general rule of thumb is once a week, right? I have a methodology called the email staircase. So first you have a follower, you get them on your list, you turn them into a friend, and then you turn them into a customer when you have a list full of friends. So how often do you need to email? Let's reframe that question in order to turn these new leads into friends. Now, I don't mean, your friend that you share all your dirty laundry with, but somebody that you have something in common with, right? So, the photographer example, a friend that's interested in getting family portraits done. What do you need to tell her in order for her to feel like, yes, that's the photographer for me. I feel really comfortable with her, especially if maybe you're doing more of like a studio portrait style photos, those people have to feel really comfortable with you, right? So how often do you need to email in order for that person to become a friend, in order for that person to feel comfortable with you? And you have your answer there. With photographers and other service providers, it can actually be relatively simple. You can email once a month
Mhm.
and go from there. Maybe you decide, oh, I really like email. After 6 months, you start to see some results. And then you say, okay, I'm going to go with my once a month newsletter. And then whenever I have a sale or I have an opening, I'm going to email. And you just email more and more. It's really, you don't get 6-pack abs overnight, right? You got to build up that muscle.
Yes.
But think of it not like, oh gosh, the rule of thumb is once a week. What the heck am I going to say every week? Just think of it as, how often do I need to talk to this person in order for them to feel comfortable with me, in order for them to feel like they know me and that they know that I'm invested in them. Once you can do that, you'll really have a good answer on how often you need to email your list.
Absolutely. And the funny thing is, I mean, I have the photography side of my business and then I have the Dubsado setup side of my business. And while I email the potential Dubsado clients every week because it's like a business, right? It's business to business. I send them all kinds of tips and things about Dubsado. I would never do that with my photography clients. Like if I emailed them every week, that would just be so out of place and so overwhelming. They would probably unsubscribe. I mean, those are not people that I need to constantly nurture. I just need to send them updates. So how I speak to those two different audiences would be very, very different. And so I'm super happy that you mentioned that. But the one thing that is true, no matter which one of my audiences that I'm talking to, is that I try to pack as much personality into my emails as possible, which Liz, you are the queen of. So can we talk about like ways to pack your emails with personality so that you do turn those leads into friends in a timely manner?
Yeah. So, number one, I just want you to think of your leads not as leads, just as real people. Like if you log into your MailChimp or whatever and you see, you know, Joanna at bluebloblow.com has joined your list, don't think, oh, I've got another one. Who's that? DJ Khaled? Another one.
One.
Or, don't think of that. Think of them as Joanna. Like, oh, I wonder who Joanna is. I wonder what oh, she signed up through X. That must mean she's interested in X. What can I say the next time I email that's going to help her with X even more or going to, pique her interest even more, right? And so I like to think of all my email addresses as real people. And every time that I email, I'm thinking about individual people. I'm thinking like, oh, I know Colie is a photographer and she just joined my list. What do photographers need to hear in order to feel comfortable enough to email, right? Number two, show pictures. And Colie, when she emailed me for the first time, she emailed a GIF or a GIF. We're not going to debate how to pronounce it. And it was actually her like on the teacups at Disney World or Disneyland. And I was like, immediately I'm in. Immediately I know everything that I need to know about her to, like, yes, I'll come on your podcast. And by the way, we're best friends now.
Yes.
Alice in Wonderland is my favorite. And I also love, going to the Disney theme parks. So when you can make your own personalized GIFs or, even just send a picture, we all know this. A picture is worth 1,000 words. So is a GIF. It shows a lot of personality without saying one word. And I know that email feels like this knot you're never going to untangle. So why not use pictures and GIFs and things of that nature to say what feels complicated to say. Nobody wants to read an email. Like if she would have emailed me, hey, my name's Colie, da 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 da. I love Allison. When I'd be like, why is she telling me this stuff? Like, just get to the pitch, right? But the picture said all of it without her having to say a word, right? I think the pitch was like 100 words. The email was very, very short, but having that GIF up top was like, It was everything. And so adding things, you don't have to do this in every single email,
Mhm.
and you don't even have to have your own. If you share, I know a lot of people love that show Schitt's Creek.
I
If you
have an entire folder, Liz.
That must be why it's top of mind, because
Yes,
you sent me an email today like, don't forget we're talking, and I think Eugene
it
Levy
had
was
one
in
in it.
it.
Yep.
And so if you're into that show, putting that into your emails, every once in a while, once a month, once every 6 weeks, putting something in your personality into your emails is going to say a lot by saying a little, right? Like, if you go to lizwilcox.com, or you're watching this video, or you heard Colie say Lisa Simpson, I'm wearing Lisa Simpson right now, right?
Mhm.
That shares a little bit of Liz without having to say like, oh, Liz is a 90s fanatic. I've got Will Smith on my mug here. I've got like Eminem cassette tapes on my mug. My other mug is like literally from 1997. Like, I'm very much a 90s freak. I've got
Mhm.
rainbow glasses. And so sharing pictures, or even, GIFs of other things, or even just mentioning, oh, today I'm wearing my Lisa Simpson sweater. It's cold where I am. How about you? That tells you something without having to say a lot.
Yeah, I mean, and it was funny that you did come around to Schitt's Creek, because in my mind, I was like, yeah, I mean, and I feel like a good mix, or at least I try to have a good mix of gifts that are just me and then ones that are pop culture. But one thing that I've realized that I have to be very careful of, as I get older, my audience isn't necessarily the same age as me. So, like, I was talking to someone today and I realized that she was born the year before I graduated high school. So, some of the things that I might mention as a person who loves the 90s and the 80s, just like Liz, I mean, those just might not hit with them. But I will say, one of the things that I love about Liz is that she packs every single one of her emails with personality. And her branding as the fresh princess of email is so on point that, I mean, I think the only thing that rivals it is like my branding with Disney. Because in case you can't see, I have a picture. I mean, there's all kinds of Disney pictures on my wall, but when people think of Colie, I really do want them to associate it with Disney. And I feel like for you, I associate everything in the night. I mean, all the boys' bands, all the Will Smith, everything I associate it with you. And I do think that part of that, it's not just what I see online with you, but also reading your emails every single week. Because I do read your emails, Liz, every single week.
That's so awesome and great to hear. And if you're thinking like, oh, I don't have a person, like I'm not a loud person like Colie or Liz, you don't have to be, but you do have personality. If you're thinking like, oh, I don't know what to share, I don't know, how to tell these amazing stories, or just name drop Lisa Simpson sweater. What I want you to do in every email, and I know a lot of email marketers, if you've listened to other podcasts or been on webinars or whatever, a lot of people will tell you to tell stories. I actually hate that advice. I feel like that's why nobody emails, because suddenly, like, if you're telling a story, suddenly you're in 10th grade English class and Mrs. Miller is over your shoulder and being like, you introduced a new idea in your conclusion and therefore you're an idiot, right? I just want you to forget about Mrs. Miller. And this will help with, sharing a little bit of personality too. At the beginning of every email, instead of trying to say like, oh, I've got to tell this story and segue it into, my services or whatever, just give a personal update. Just share 2 to 3 sentences about something that you've done since the last time you emailed. So if I was writing my email today, it'd be, oh, I was on this podcast interview. I didn't realize we were recording for YouTube, and my daughter trashed my living room, and that's just going to be in there forever, right? That's 2 to 3 sentences. And then I can say, anyway, don't forget, I've got 25% off until Friday, or, whatever, right? I've got 2 bookings for XYZ. Join my $9 membership. Like, what, I got a new blog post, whatever actual content you want to share. But what I didn't mention earlier about turning people into friends is just share in a relatable way. Just be relatable. And I want you to know, like, relatable is not the same thing as interesting.
Mm.
When we tell a story, we're trying to be interesting. And that's really hard to do. That's when all that, imposter syndrome, or, I'm not interesting. I don't do anything. I've just got kids. Carpool's not interesting. I don't have a story, you know. But when you can be relatable, suddenly everything in your life is relatable because humans want to relate to humans, right? Even if, I mentioned the 90s and you're like, oh, well, to Colie's point, I was born in the 70s. I like the 80s better. You're relating. Oh, Liz likes Will Smith. Like, I love DJ Jazzy Jeff, or Liz loves NSYNC. I'm BTS crazy because I was born in 2006, right? You're relating in some way. You're trying to find a connection. So stop trying to be interesting in your emails. And when you think about your personality and how to tell stories or whatever, just think, how can I just be relatable? Walking the dog is relatable. Even Colie and I related because we're wearing the same type of glasses. Anything can be relatable, right? And so when you can do that, suddenly it kind of takes the pressure off. It's like that release valve of email marketing. And suddenly that knot we were talking about starts to untangle itself, and you can really get going with your newsletters.
Yeah, I will say last night, my relatable piece of news that I'm going to put in my newsletter for this week is that I cooked a roast and no one ate it but me. And I know
Okay,
that
yes.
there are so many moms that are going to be like, yes, I keep on cooking food and none of my family wants to eat it with me. I mean, it's fine. My roast was delicious. And I just told them, y'all are on your own, make whatever you want. But I mean, I sat down, I thought about the roast. I ordered, the ingredients, had them delivered. I was really excited. And my husband took one bite and walked away. And my kid was like, nah, in case you can't see me, I'm doing a thumbs down. And she was
Yeah.
like, can I have a hot dog?
Oh my gosh.
Like,
Yeah.
really? Yeah.
Yeah, but even that sentence Coley just said about, like, I made a roast and no one ate it. Like, even if she just put an emoji, like the thumbs down emoji at the end, like that could be the only sentence she writes. And then she segues into, I've got 3 spots for XYZ. Like, boom, newsletter done. And I know, Coley, you wanted to talk about other types of emails.
Mhm.
You can do that in other types of, like, we were talking about this, we have this podcast coming up, and Coley's sending me emails. And even the one this morning was so good. It was just, hey, in case you need a reminder. And it was Eugene Levy, like waving at me or doing whatever, like, don't forget. And it was just, again, it was probably like 50 words, a picture of Eugene Levy. I was like, oh yeah, I do have that interview. Let me go put on something 90s. Let me take a shower, right? And it was just so simple, but it was so packed with personality. And guess what? I was 2 minutes early to the interview because I remembered, right? So you can do this in all your emails.
Yeah, I mean, because when Liz usually talks, she's usually talking about newsletters and then welcome series, which is what we're going to talk about next. But one of the things that I brought up to her, because of course you guys are my listening audience, and I do all of the Dubsado stuff, where I feel like people fall flat is you write good newsletters and you get a good welcome series if you have a freebie or when someone just joins your emails for the love of emails. But when people think about writing things that happen after someone inquires, like a lead automated response, I've talked about that ad nauseum, guys, so I'm not going to make Liz go over it. But we were just having a very brief conversation about making sure that the things that she's teaching you to put in your newsletter and your welcome series carry over into what we would consider to be very mundane reminder emails. Because, like Liz said, she's on my podcast. I sent her, this is how many emails I sent Liz, guys. I sent her an email to invite her. I sent her a confirmation email after she scheduled. I sent her one reminder yesterday that said tomorrow's the day. And then I sent her another email today. I can't remember if it was 1 hour or 10 minutes. It was probably 1 hour. But that's 4 different emails that I sent Liz. And every single one of them was packed with like my kind of personality because it sounded like me. I used a GIF that was very on brand for me. And I'm basically just sending these emails so that people don't forget about me and that they get the important piece of information, which for this podcast was, don't forget you agreed to be on my
Show up.
podcast.
Show
Show
up,
up
bitch.
so that I'm not sitting here alone. But Liz, this is the perfect place for us to segue
Okay.
into talking about a welcome series. And I want to admit to you guys, I think what pushed me over the edge, because like I said, I love Liz, I'm in her membership, but literally what pushed me to contact her was she was recently on the Talk Copy to Me podcast. I think I was driving to the airport to pick my mother up. I'm pretty sure that's what I was doing. But I was listening to this podcast. And when Liz was talking about how to write an effective welcome series, and I think she gave like 4 bullet points that you should do, I literally pulled my car over and made notes. Like I'm on the way to the airport to get my mom and I pulled over, I made my notes and my daughter was like, "What are you doing?" And I'm like, "I have to write this down before I forget." And when I got home, I rewrote my entire welcome series for my course students. So if you've gotten that email sequence, thank you, Liz. But Liz, let's talk about the welcome series. So why is a welcome series so important? And then what are like the 4 key things that we should keep in mind when we are crafting a new welcome series or we're giving our current ones an upgrade?
Yeah. So again, I'm going to refer back to the email staircase, right?
Mm-hmm.
Follower, friend, customer. We've got to start the friendship, right? And it doesn't, so if you started emailing today, you listen to this podcast, you're like, "Oh, this is great. I haven't emailed my list in 3 months, but dang it, I'm excited. Liz is dope. Like, let's go." And you email your list, you're if you never had a welcome sequence in the first place, or if you haven't emailed it in a long time, you're probably not going to see the results that I was talking about at the beginning of, for every dollar you get $40 in
Mm-hmm.
return, etc. You have to have a firm foundation, and that firm foundation is your welcome sequence. So I look at emails as, number one, if we're going with the friendship thing, like number one, you've got to start the friendship. That's the welcome sequence. Continue the friendship are the newsletters, and solidify the friendship are those sales emails, are those automations, "Hey, lady, show up to this thing you said you were going to show up to," right? And so we have to start the friendship somewhere. We have to build that foundation. And that is within the welcome sequence itself. If you do not have a proper welcome sequence, I don't even know what you're doing. It's like taking a photo if you don't have a proper lens, right? Like you know what I mean? Like if
Yes.
somebody hired you and paid $5,000 and you're showing up with your iPhone, they're not going to get what they thought they were going to get, right? They're going to be like, mm. And so it's the same as, if you don't have a welcome sequence and somebody just starts emailing you, they have no idea, what the picture is going to turn out to be. They have no idea what it is they're even doing on this list, especially if you're building your list with a lot of, either you're doing like in-person networking. "Oh yeah, let me, join my list for, more info on whatever." Or if you're getting a lot of people from some sort of freebie or lead magnet, they have to know where the bus is going. So within the welcome sequence itself, I really want you to do 3 things. And we already talked a lot about the first. So you've got to share some personality, your vision for your clients or students, and some values. Okay. I'm actually going to put that, if you're watching the YouTube, you can see it on the screen now. So the welcome sequence should show off your personality, your vision, and values. We talked about personality. Again, if you feel like you don't have a loud one like me, there are certain parts of your personality. Pick the ones that you want to, portray and put them out there. Again, you can pick pop culture. You can pick, something that you drink, a favorite character of yours. It can be very simple until you feel more vulnerable to open up about different parts of your personality, right? And so within that, well, I'm going to share a sentence in a second that you can steal. Then you also want to share your vision. So where is it you want people to go? So I like to think of it as like Liz Wilcox University. If you're walking across Liz Wilcox University, what is that degree that I'm handing you? Again, for me, you make money with email. I don't care about your Instagram. I don't care about your podcast downloads, nothing. I only care about how you can make money with email. That is the very specific vision I have for you. So you might want to, like Colie said, pull over, write that down, and think about later, what is the vision you actually have for your students, your clients, your members, whatever word you want to use, right? Really think about the vision, and you have to share that within the welcome sequence, because again, they kind of sort of hopped on the bus. They got your freebie, or they gave you your their email address, but they need to know exactly where the bus is going. The last thing I'll say about the vision as a sort of visual for you, like you guys have seen, again, 90s, you've seen Forrest Gump, right? Colie, you've seen this.
I have.
So, you know, when Forrest, he starts running and then he's gaining all these followers and they're like literally just following him
Following him.
around. And, you know, he's in the desert and he turns around and he's like, well, I think I'll go home now. And everybody turns around and they're like, well, what are we supposed to do now, bro? Like, we're in the middle of the desert. Don't do that to your clients. And also, that's a movie. That's like Spielberg or whoever directed it. People are not going to blindly follow you into the desert just because you're emailing them.
Yes.
They have to know exactly where they're going and why they're going there. So share the vision directly in your welcome sequence so people can say, oh, yes, that's exactly where I want to go. I do need studio portraits done. Or, yes, I do need to get my email act together. I do need to finally figure out Dubsado so I can do XYZ. Share that vision right then and there. And then you can share a little bit of values. Now, this is not to say spew your politics everywhere. And anytime something happens in the media, you have to, you know, send out a press release on your opinion, right? That's not what I'm saying. We've all seen some small business owners do that, and it's good and bad. But there are certain values that drive the way you do business, drive how you do business, and you should share those up front so people can know, like, yes, I'm fully aligned with that. I want to be this person's friend, right? I'm starting to feel comfortable with them. So for me, one of mine, and we talked about my membership earlier, one of my core values in my business is affordability. When I started my business, I had exactly $0, and I just got really tired of people telling me, well, if you were really committed, you would buy this. I'm like, girl, I'm committed as hell, but my bank account ain't. You know, and so that's part of my value system, and that's what drives the way I do business.
Mm-hmm.
And so I share that right up front in the welcome sequence so people know, oh, that's the reason why her membership is $9, not because it's not valuable. This is just something she values.
Mm-hmm.
And so you can share those up front. And what I wanted, the last piece, because I know I've rambled a lot here, to share your personality and vision, you can do this very quickly in the very first email you send. You can deliver the freebie, you can intro whatever, make it quick, and then say, oh, by the way, my name's Liz. As much as I love the 90s, that's that personality piece, as much as I love X, I love the idea of you making money with email even more. Boom. I've shared a little bit of personality. Oh, she's a 90s chick. Okay, I know a little bit more about her. And I've shared the vision. Oh, she wants me to make money with email. Suddenly, they are really on the bus or they are really off. Nope, hate the 90s. I'm too old for this chick. You know, I'm out of here, right? Or whatever. Like, no, I'm not really ready to commit to email. You know, and so it's meant to be a statement that really gets people on board. And you can put that right in the first email. You know, as much as I love X, I love the idea of Y even more. Please steal it. Write it down. Take it.
Oh, I
It's
did.
yours.
As much as I love
Good.
Disney, I love the idea of you stop wasting your time running your business behind the scenes more. That's what I updated my email to be. So yes, I did, Liz. I
Mic
did totally
drop.
steal that.
Amen. I love that. Yeah. And it's just a simple sentence. And, you know, even if you take no more advice from Liz Wilcox today, like just add that sentence. And you can even steal that sentence and just drop it in there every few months. Put it in those automations, like when somebody signs up for a consult call or whatever, you know, you could put it in a PS. I know you already signed up, but in case you weren't aware, you know, I love Disney, but I love blah, blah, blah more. And it's just this reminder, right? Just the
Of who
way
you are
Colie
and what you value. Yep.
yeah, like she reminded me, hey, lady, you signed up for this. It's like reminding them like of who you are exactly and, you know, why you signed up. Like this is what I'm all about. Hopefully you're on board.
And I will say, like, that was actually what made me pull over because what I didn't realize listening to what other people told me my welcome sequence should include, my first email was always just, hey, here's the freebie that you told me that you wanted. Download it and I'll be back in your inbox tomorrow with more tips. That was literally the first email of every single one of my welcome sequences. I didn't talk about who I was. I didn't talk about what I did. It was, hey, you signed up for this thing. Here it is. And don't forget, I'm going to be back tomorrow. So, I mean, I was setting the table for them to look for an
Mm-hmm.
email from me tomorrow. But the one thing that I got from you that I hadn't really thought about is if your welcome series is 3 emails, 4 emails, 5 emails, it doesn't matter. No matter how interesting your emails are, that first email is the one that's going to get opened the most because it has the thing that says, here you go.
Absolutely.
And so I never really thought about leveraging the fact that that's the one email that, I mean, it might get like a 90% open rate. And automatically your second email is going to be lower because if people just wanted the freebie, then they've already downloaded it and you didn't get to give them that extra value that went along with the freebie. So yeah, Liz, that's what I pulled over and I was like, okay, email number 1, it's got to get rewritten for all of
I
them.
love that. Well, I love what she just said about, it really should be a quick email. Hey, here's the freebie. Here's what here's what's inside. Peace out. But adding that, like, oh, that's why I say, oh, by the way, I'm Liz. The one thing you've got to know is blah, 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 right? Like just that very simple, this is not us telling you to make your first email really long and tell
Yeah, no.
everybody, your mother's story and all about your ancestors and whatever. That comes next, right? We're just starting the friendship. And so, think of it like if we went to an event together, we sat down, we shook hands. Oh yeah, my name's Liz. I do email, I love the 90s, but I love email more, and then the guy on stage starts talking and we stop talking too, right? We're just starting that conversation. So yeah, keep it quick, but definitely add a little bit of the personality and the vision so that, instead of saying, oh, by the way, I'm going to email you tomorrow. It's like, okay, don't care. It's like, oh, this chick's kind of cool. I'm going to open that email tomorrow.
Yeah. And the funny thing is, when you just said the meeting in person, I had this vision of someone literally sitting next to me at a party and just telling me their whole life story. And that is what you want to avoid, guys. Like, even though it's email, it's the same thing. You would not sit down next to someone at a party and tell them your entire life story, like how you met your husband, how you had babies, what you do for a living. Like, that's just not appropriate. So keep that same, you know, energy going when you write
Yeah.
your emails.
And that's why I say like turn them into a friend, right? Because you wouldn't start a friendship like that. Exactly. I love that at a party. Yeah, totally wildly inappropriate.
So, Liz, is there anything else that you want to say about a welcome series? Because I feel like you just dropped so much knowledge that literally everyone should be either writing a welcome sequence if you don't already have one, or basically upgrading the one that you have to, turn it more into a conversation, short and sweet in the beginning, and then you build with each email.
Yeah, the only thing I'll say, just remember personality, vision, values. And if you're having a hard time conceptualizing this, or if you're looking at your welcome sequence or thinking about it and you're like, yeah, I know this is way off. It's not performing the way it should, but I don't know what I should do. You can just go to lizwilcox.com. There's a hot pink button in the top right hand corner, and you can just sign up, and I'll give you an entire welcome sequence that's already written for you. That way, you can just, again, like just steal my strategy, steal my methodology, take out Liz, put in you, and, you'll be good to go. You can also always just email me any questions. I'm available, baby.
All right, Liz, I think that's a good place for us to stop. I am going to have all of Liz's contact information, including a link to her amazing membership, in the show notes. Liz, thank you so much for joining me on the podcast. I have loved having you.
Yeah, this was so fun. I cannot wait to see what everybody does with their emails. So I'll talk to you soon.
Yeah. Thanks, guys. That's it for this episode. See you next time.